He showed his teeth, but never tore. He stood between the child and every open door. Lost her way at dusk, the snow erased the trail. She heard the branches bending and the distant chapel bell. A wolf appeared before her with moonlight on his eyes. She froze and waited for the pain the stories promised twice. But he lay down beside her and warmed her through the cold. He listened while she cried about the secret she had told. At dawn he walked ahead of her through paths no map had known, and brought her to a cottage that the royal guards had shown. He could have used his hunger, he could have left her there, but something called a monster was the only thing that cared. The beast who would not bite was kinder than the king. He guarded every frightened child and asked for nothing. The beast who would not bite had scars no one could see. The village called him wicked, but he was setting children free. Warm fur, cold light, not every fang is meant to bite. The guards arrived by morning with iron in their hands. They said the girl belonged again to royal house and lands. The wolf stepped forward quietly and blocked the narrow way. The captain laughed and raised his sword and told the beast to stay. But every child inside the house came standing by his side. They showed the chains, the marks, the proof the kingdom could not hide. The beast did not attack the men, he only held the line. And all the people watching learned what mercy looked like in the wild. The beast who would not bite was kinder than the king. He guarded every frightened child and asked for nothing. The beast who would not bite had scars no one could see. The village called him wicked, but he was setting children free. Kindness does not always speak in voices soft and bright. Sometimes it stands on four tired legs and watches through the night. He showed his teeth, but never tore. He stood between the child and every open door. They feared the claws, they feared the night, but golden teeth were dressed in light. The king declared the forest ghost cursed from every balcony. He said the wolves had taken sons and ruined families. He sent his soldiers through the trees with torches, steel and rope. He promised silver for each hide and called the slaughter hope. The people filled the market square and cheered beneath the flags, while servants carried covered things in dark and heavy bags. The princess watched from tower glass and saw the truth below. The wolves were running from the men, not hunting through the snow. The crown spoke of protection, the crown spoke of the law, but every word was hiding what the princess really saw. The crown had sharper teeth than any wolf at night. It smiled beneath the chandeliers and fed beyond the light. The crown had sharper teeth, though no one saw them shine. The forest never built the cage, the kingdom drew the line. Gold blade, black fur, every lie returns to her. She found the royal cellar behind the banquet hall and heard the sound of breathing from beyond the iron wall. The missing villagers were there with chains around their hands. The king had used their disappearances to steal their homes and lands. A wounded wolf lay near the door with arrows in his side. He had followed every captive and refused to let them die. The princess broke the lock at dawn and rang the warning bell. The monster wearing velvet robes had finally lost his spell. The crown had sharper teeth than any wolf at night. It smiled beneath the chandeliers and fed beyond the light. The crown had sharper teeth, though no one saw them shine. The forest never built the cage, the kingdom drew the line. Take the banners down, let the hidden speak. Power looks most beautiful when no one sees it eat. They feared the claws, they feared the night, but golden teeth were dressed in light. Red hood, black wood, she knew more than children should. Her mother tied the ribbon beneath her careful chin and told her not to speak to wolves or ever let them in. She carried bread and honey across the winter ground, but But every step beyond the gate brought stranger signs around. The ravens would not leave the road, the flowers faced away. The trees had scratched one warning where the sunlight used to stay. Do not fear the yellow eyes, do not trust the royal blue. The forest keeps the honest things, the palace hides the truth. She heard the wolf behind her, but he never crossed the line. He watched the distant castle like he knew what waited inside. The girl in red knew the truth before the village did. The wolf was never hunting her, he guarded where she hid. The girl in red knew the truth, the crown had taught them lies. The safest place was in the woods, beneath the wolf's gold eyes. Her grandmother's cottage and found the chimney cold. The door was marked with royal wax, the lock was made of gold. Inside were letters from the court and names in rows of 10. A list of girls who crossed the woods and never came again. The wolf stood waiting by the wall, his fur was dark with rain. He lowered down his wounded head and showed a royal chain. She touched the crest upon the iron, the same one on the gate, and knew the kingdom's pretty songs had hidden something great. Before the village did, the wolf was never hunting her, he guarded where she hid. The girl in red knew the truth, the crown had taught them lies. The safest place was in the woods, beneath the wolf's gold eyes. Let them call me foolish, let them call him wild. I would trust the forest beast before the king who smiles. Red hood, black wood, she knew more than children should. How beyond the palace walls, a warning in the rain. The king ignored it 7 nights until it spoke his name. dressed for dancing, the chandeliers were bright. The nobles praised the kingdom and called the borders right. Outside the city gates, the wolves began to cry. Not one but hundreds in the hills beneath the blood-red sky. The king demanded silence, the prince ordered the guards. The queen said beasts were jealous of the palace and its stars. But every howl carried a name of someone gone from home, and every echo from the woods was closer than before. The walls were built to keep them out, the lies were built within, and every sound beyond the stone remembered every sin. The howl beyond the palace walls was never meant to haunt. It called the hidden names aloud, the crown had tried to blind. The howl beyond the palace walls grew louder through the night. The wolves were not invading, they were bringing truth to light. Stone wall, black sky, every secret learns to cry. The princess left the ballroom and followed through the rain. She found the outer courtyard marked with a royal chain. Beyond the gate stood children, the kingdom called long dead. The wolves had led them home again with snow upon their heads. The king drew back in horror, the queen began to pray. The people opened palace doors and turned the guards away. The oldest wolf stepped forward with scars across his face, and every howl became a voice the court could not erase. The howl beyond the palace walls was never meant to haunt. It called the hidden names aloud, the crown had tried to blind. The howl beyond the palace walls grew louder through the night. The wolves were not invading, they were bringing truth to light. Let the walls come down, let the dark come through. What waits beyond the kingdom may be kinder than its truth. A howl beyond the palace walls, a warning in the rain. The king ignored it 7 nights until it spoke his name. He carried silver arrows, he carried royal law. He smiled like every hero they believed they saw. He said he knew it best. The village cheered his stories of wolves beneath the moon. He promised he would end the fear and bring them safety soon. But every trap he set at night was placed beside a road where royal wagons passed unseen, with chains beneath the load. He sold the hides for profit, he sold the names for gold, and every time a child went missing, another lie was told. He wore the monster's smile behind the hero's face, and every cheer around him helped him keep his place. The hunter wore the monster's smile and no one turned away. He pointed toward the forest while he stole the light of day. The hunter wore the monster's smile with silver in his hand. The wolf was never hunting them, the hunter owned the land. Silver shine, black trees, every hero charges began to follow him through snow and broken pine. He watched the hunter mark the doors and count the children in line. A girl in red found footprints that never reached the wood. They led behind the royal in exactly where they should. She gathered every witness, she showed them every chain. The hunter drew his silver bow and tried to shift the blade, but when the wolf stepped through the square, he stood without a sound. The hunter's perfect smile disappeared when truth came walking down. The hunter wore the monster's smile and no one turned away. He pointed toward the forest while he stole the light of day. The hunter wore the monster's smile with silver in his hand. The wolf was never hunting them, the hunter owned the land. Not every blade protects you, not every badge is clean. The worst of beasts look human when they want to stay unseen. He carried silver arrows, he carried royal law. He smiled like every hero they believed they saw. The palace called her back, the forest called her true. She stood between two kingdoms and already knew. The king sent 7 riders with banners white and gold. They told her she was needed, they told her she was old. The palace had prepared a room, the prince had learned regret. The queen had written promises she had no right to get. But near the path beside her, the wolf stood in the snow. He made no sound, he asked no thing, he simply let her know. The woods that kept her living when the court had cast her out. The trees had heard her breaking and had never turned around. The road to home was shining, the road to truth was wild. She looked at all the golden men and chose the trees that smile. The princess chose the woods over every royal lie. She chose the wolf beside her and the moon above the outsiders called her foolish. The prince arrived at dawn. He said the throne still waited. He said the past was gone. She answered, you remember me only when the kingdom shakes. The forest never asked my worth, it only healed what breaks. The wolf turned toward the shadows, the ravens filled the air. The trees bent low around her like a crown she chose to wear. She walked beyond the final gate without a backward glance, and every root beneath the earth began a quiet dance. The princess chose the woods over every royal lie. She chose the wolf beside her and the moon above the sky. The princess chose the woods when no one owned her name. She left the crown behind her and walked beyond their game. Let the palace keep its towers, let the kingdom keep its gold. I would rather live unbroken than be worshipped and The palace called her back. The forest called her true. She stood between two kingdoms and already knew. Red cloth in the moonlight, boots deep in the snow. The village called it courage, but she already knew where to go. They told her of the yellow eyes that watched beyond the road. They told her of the hungry jaws that waited near her home. Her grandmother had warned her too, but not the way they said. She whispered, fear the men in silk, not creatures born and fed. So when the wolf appeared at dusk, she did not turn or cry. She saw the royal arrow still broken in his side. He looked toward the northern hill where lanterns moved in rows, and she understood the danger by the direction of his nose. She never feared the forest, she feared the polished gate. The wolf had only found her before the kingdom sealed her fate. The Red Hood was never afraid, she knew the truth inside. The wolf was not the shadow that had followed every child. The Red Hood was never afraid, she walked where others fled, because the beast beside her was less dangerous than man in red. Red cloak, black pine, every warning leaves a sign. They reached the hidden carriage road beneath the castle wall. The missing children sat in chains behind a painted hall. The guard stepped out with silver blades and called the wolf unclean. But she stood first and raised the proof of what the crown had been. The villagers arrived by dawn with torches was not afraid at all. Boots deep in the snow. The village called it courage, but she already knew where to go. They opened the old story and tore the final page. The wolf was done with silence, the children done with cages. For generations, every child had learned the same old rhyme. The wolf was born for wickedness, the crown was born divine. They drew him black with sharpened teeth, they drew the king in light. They called the forest dangerous and called the palace right. But one by one the rescued came, with truth inside their heads. They spoke of wolves who guarded paths and kings who stole the land. The girl in red stood in the square, the princess by her side, and all the words the court had used could no longer survive. A story is a weapon when only rulers write, but truth can change the ending when the hidden find their light. They finally rewrote the tale and gave the wolf his name. Not monster, beast, or shadow, but the guardian of the flame. They finally rewrote the tale and let the old lie end. The forest was not where they fell, it was where they found a friend. New page, old scar, every truth travels far. The warning signs were taken down, the cages split apart, the chapel bells rang differently above the waking dark. The hunters left their silver bows, the king was made to stand before the children he had sold, an answer for the land. The oldest wolf walked through the square without a chain or crown. The people made a path for him, but he would not bow down. He turned toward the forest edge and vanished through the pine, while every child began to sing a different final line. They friend. Let the false page fade, let the true one stay. The monsters in our stories are not always what they say. They opened the old story and tore the final page. The wolf was done with silence, the children done with cages. They lock the doors, they dim the flame, and every night they spoke his name. The baker swore he saw the wolf beyond the frozen stream. The blacksmith said he heard the howl inside his youngest dream. The mothers pulled the curtain shut, the fathers raised the wall, and every rumor in the square made something darker crawl. They painted claws on every gate, they carved his face in stone. They taught the children fear before the children walked alone. But no one asked who lit the fires that burned the northern field. No one asked why royal men came home with blood on steel. The story grew much bigger each time another lied. The village fed the fear until the truth had nowhere left to hide. The village fed the fear and called the wolf a curse. They needed something wild to blame, so no one saw what hurt. The village fed the fear until the bells all knew the monster lived among them and wore a face they trusted too. Returned one day with letters in her hand. She placed them in the market square and read them where they'd stand. The missing children had been sold to pay the kingdom's debt. The wolf had followed every card and saved the ones he met. The mayor tried to silence her, the priest began to pray, but every family in the crowd could see the truth that day. The wolf appeared beyond the bridge, too tired now to run, and all the people who had cursed him looked down at what they'd done. The village fed the fear and called the wolf a curse. They needed something wild to blame, so no one saw what hurt. The village fed the fear until the bells all knew the monster lived among them and wore a face they trusted too. Fear is easy, truth is slow. Lies grow roots where people let them grow. They lock the doors, they dim the flame, and every night they spoke his name. Beneath the chapel floor, behind the painted saints, a wolf lay chained in darkness and listened to their prayers. The village loved the chapel, its windows burned like jewels. The priest spoke softly every dawn of kindness and of rules. He warned them of the forest, he warned them of the beast. He said the wolf devoured souls and fed upon the weak. But under stone and holy wood a different story slept. The beast they blamed for every loss was chained where no one wept. Silver links around his legs, a crest upon the chain, the same one worn by royal gods who came before the rain. The bells rang out for mercy, the candles burned for grace, but something bound beneath the floor remembered every face. The wolf beneath the chapel was never what they said. He carried all their missing names inside his wounded head. The wolf beneath the chapel had watched the kingdom lie, and every prayer above him was another alibi. Church bell, iron chain, holy words and hidden pain. A young girl found the stairway behind the altar cloth. She followed drops of crimson and heard the breathing stop. The wolf looked up and did not growl, he only closed his eyes. She touched the royal mark in iron and understood the lies. The priest appeared behind her with fear upon his face. He said some truths are dangerous, some beasts must know their place. She broke the lock with altar brass, the candles all went black. The wolf rose slowly to his feet and never once attacked. The wolf beneath the chapel was never what they said. He carried all their missing names inside his wounded head. The wolf beneath the chapel had watched the kingdom lie, and every prayer above him was another alibi. Do not trust the painted saints when blood is on the floor. Some monsters hide in sacred robes and preach behind the door. Beneath the chapel floor, behind the painted saints, a wolf walked out of darkness and left behind their chains. He waited by the doorway through winter, wind and war. They thought he came to enter, but the wolf guarded the door. torches bent. The village said an old witch lived where missing children went. At night they saw a shadow with yellow eyes outside. They swore the wolf was waiting for the woman trapped inside. But every time the darkness moved, he placed himself between the door and something deeper that the villagers had not seen. A shape beneath the frozen ground, a whisper under stone. A thing the royal hunters woke and left the woods alone. He never crossed the threshold, he never asked for more. He only bared his teeth at night and guarded every door. The wolf guarded the door while the village cursed his name. He stood between the sleeping girl and what the kingdom came to claim. The wolf guarded the door through thunder, frost, and fear. The monster was not trying to enter. He was keeping something here. Low moon, cold breath, one old wolf against the death. The girl awoke one evening to scratching underneath. The floorboard shook beneath her bed like roots had learned to breathe. She opened up the cottage door and found the wolf in snow. His body marked with silver cuts, his breathing weak and slow. Behind him stood the royal guard with lanterns burning blue. They said the king required the girl for something old and true. The wolf rose up despite the wounds and faced the swords alone. That night she learned who built the curse and who had kept her home. The wolf guarded the door while the village cursed his name. He stood between the sleeping girl and what the kingdom came to claim. The wolf guarded the door through thunder, frost, and fear. The monster was not trying to enter. He was keeping something here. Not every growl is hunger. Not every silence lies. Sometimes love has muddy pores and tired golden eyes. He waited by the doorway through winter, wind, and war. They thought he came to enter, but the wolf guarded the door. He walked beneath the winter moon where all the lost roads crossed. He carried every vanished name the village thought was lost. Mothers left small ribbons along the forest gate. The fathers carved their children's names and learned to live with fate. The king declared the wolf had come and taken them away. He sent the hunters into snow and made the whole town pray. Deep beyond the frozen creek, the wolf had found the chains He followed royal wagons through the darkness and the rain. He could not free them all at once. He could not speak their tongue, so every night he memorized the names of every young. He held them like a promise. He kept them through the years, while every lie above the trees was watered by their tears. The wolf remembered every name the kingdom threw away. He carried them through winter nights and guarded where they lay. The wolf remembered every name, though no one knew his own. The monster in their story was the only one who brought them home. Cold tracks, silver breath, every name outlives death. Girl in red found markings cut deep into a pine, a list of missing children written line by line. She followed every symbol to a valley without sun, and found the hidden prison where the royal roads begun. The wolf stood near the broken gate with blood along his side. He had attacked the guards alone and kept the doors open wide. The children ran toward morning as the bells began to ring, and every name the wolf remembered became a blade against the king. The wolf remembered every name the kingdom threw away. He carried them through winter nights and guarded where they lay. The wolf remembered every name, though no one knew his own. The monster in their story was the only one who brought them home. Let them return, let every lie be left to burn. He walked beneath the winter moon where all the lost roads crossed. He carried every vanished name the village thought was lost. The moon was low, the path was red. The wolf stood still and shook his head. Told the children not to walk beyond the chapel bell. They said a beast lived in the pines and dragged the lost to hell. They painted teeth upon the signs, they nailed them to the trees. They blamed the howling path and tried to make her understand. He did not bare his teeth to hunt, he did not leap or bite. He only stared beyond her shoulder at the castle in the night. He knew the doors were open, he knew the king was near. He knew the thing behind the crown was what she had to fear. The wolf tried to warn them, but no one heard the sound. They called him wicked, called him cursed, and drove him from the town. The wolf tried to warn them, before the bells went still. The monster was not in the woods, it waited on the hill. Black trees, cold rain, every warning sounds the same. She reached the gate at midnight. The guards were dressed in white. They said the king had summoned her to dine beneath the light. The table shone with silver, the wine was dark and sweet, but every chair around the room was carved with tiny teeth. The king smiled like a father, the queen held out her hand. The girl remembered yellow eyes and finally understood the plan. Outside the wolf began to howl, the window shook with flame, but everyone inside the hall still whispered his name. The wolf tried to warn them, but no one heard the sound. They called him wicked, called him cursed, and drove him from the town. The wolf tried to warn them, before the bells went still. The monster was not in the woods, it waited on the hill. Some beasts wear fur, some beasts wear gold. Some stories lie when they are told. Some teeth are hidden behind a smile. Some kingdoms feed on every child. The moon was low, the path was red. The wolf stood still and shook his head. The forest heard the kingdom lie. The roots began to move. The moon looked down upon the wolf and asked him what he knew. The border where the black trees met the wheat. He watched the royal hunters leave their footprints in the sleet. They blamed him for the empty homes, they blamed him for the cries. They never blamed the men in gold who came beneath disguise. The forest kept a memory in every ring and stone. It knew the names of every child the palace had not shown. And when the king sent fire at last to burn the secrets through, the branches bent above the wolf as if they always knew. The wind became an army, the roots became a wall. The forest had been listening and now it heard the call. The forest chose the wolf. sealed with truth inside her hand. The letters from the royal vault were scattered through the land. The villagers began to read the names and dates and gold. The story of the wicked wolf was finally retold. The king commanded arrows, but the forest swallowed sound. The roots climbed up the palace steps and split the marble ground. The wolf stood beside the princess as the royal banners tore. Not servant, pet, or monster, but the guardian of the poor. The forest chose the wolf when the kingdom chose the lie. The trees rose up around him and the ravens filled the sky. The forest chose the wolf when the ground began to fall. The beast they feared was not the one who built the prison wall. Let the old tale burn, let the true one grow. The forest keeps the names the kingdom will not show. The forest heard